Absolutely fine. Thanks, Jadid.
Okay, you're welcome. No problem. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah. Yeah, Divya, go ahead.
Actually, I have doubt on that Spring MVC web version jar. Actually, as per the documentation in Wiki, they have written that since 5.2, Spring web MVC jar should be 3.2.8. So latest version that is available right now in MVC repository is 4.2.3 release. So is it if I'm going to use this higher version, is it going to do any problem in that project, or I need to do for 3.2.8 only?
You can use the higher versions itself, Divya. It should not be a problem, as per my understanding. But means it should not be a problem. Basically, that's what my understanding is. But again, I have to try it out by myself, and then I can only be assured and tell you that what is actually will happen or something like that.
Okay, fine. Nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay.
No problem. Okay, so just on a quick start itself, so what I would like to have from you guys is like, so we'll start now. And as part of the yesterday session, do you have any questions? Because I got the mails from Jaydeep and Divya regarding the last project, that whatever means small application, whatever I have shown it to you guys. So in that, what I would require from you is very simple. I have given some service layer assignment to you, so you can take your time and you can just complete the assignments and just send it back to me. So there are one point that is not yet covered by us, that is a dynamic model attribute part. So I will tell you that as well today. Okay. So means there is an improvisation. There are two case studies itself that we are having on the service layer assignment, that you can just enhance that application like that, and whatever it is just coming up, whatever it is the result is coming up, you can just simply let me know about the findings, whatever you had. Okay. So that would be my suggestion to you guys. So you can just try it over the weekend or take some time to do it. Cause mostly like what I would like to say is like there will be including today's class, there will be one more or maybe 1.5 classes will be there for our core itself. So I will be trying to complete the core in the next 2 classes, as we are having a lot of things and a lot of big areas to cover in the commerce. So when I say big areas, there are so many modules that already we have planned for, and we have planned for some other areas as well. So when I say other areas, that means likely the ACP hybris integration and all. There are of the stuff that we had the discussions that we will be covering those up. So we will be having those covered as well. So that would be the typical expectation, or we can see that what will be our comfort zone to go ahead with it. So based on our comfort zone also, we will try to finish it as soon as possible, the core, and then we will jump into the commerce, because in the commerce we have a quite long way to cover rather than the core. Okay. So just on a quick recap, do you have any questions that why, what, how, and those things regarding the service layer? Otherwise, I will quickly go to the interceptor itself. Guys, so any questions from anyone? Okay, if we are good, then we can just start off our discussions as of today itself, which we have planned for the interceptors. Okay. So we have seen the model life cycle, right? The last time we have seen the model life cycle. And we are going to see the model life cycles itself, where it is been what I can say is validated with the interceptors, or where it is been uh, let's take the validation itself, the validated using interceptor itself. So there are likely various types of interceptor which allows us to interrupt internet course of the model life cycle. So we can say validate here, they are calling it as interrupt. So what actually happens for the interceptor is like whenever we are just loading a model, whenever we are just preparing a model, or whenever we are just doing something onto the models, what happens here in this interceptors itself is very simple. Uh, it actually, the interceptors come in between, and it used to be in place in between, and just used to validate the model life cycle itself, like how the model is being loaded, what are getting prepared, and while saving back it to the database, the data validations and all that is also being taken care by the interceptors itself. Okay. The interceptor addresses a particular step in the model life cycle. So whenever we will be just able to see that what actually the interceptors are doing here in our case, we will be able to see that what are the interceptors are actually means how they are actually coming into in place itself for the model life cycle. Okay. So we have the interceptors which can modify a model, raise an exception, interruption between the current step, and certain various may be validated before the model is saved. And interceptor is registered as a Spring Bean. So let us just have a look at what interceptor is all about right now. In that way, it will be a better understanding for us. So the interceptor overview or life cycle of a model is something like this. We have seen that whenever a model is been called, or I have told you that in the factory method itself, the model is been called. We used to call the model service.get method. And whenever there is a model service.get call is there, what happens in that case is like the interceptor is loaded from the database. We have the load interceptor itself already defined by hybris, which is just taking the call and just validating or interrupting the call before the model is actually loaded into our system. Whenever the model is being instantiated itself, so what happens in that case? The model service dot create method again, like in the factory method itself, it is just telling. So whenever we are just using the model service dot create method, the init default interceptor is getting called with the initial values of the model, whatever it is there inside it. So whenever I used to instantiate a model, what happens? The load interceptor and init default interceptors are being called to load the data into the system or load the model with the initial values itself to the system. Okay. So this is how the interceptors are coming. Now you will be having a question where I can see that the interceptors are actually in place. We cannot see them basically as of now, because these are some of the backend logic that actually happens in the backend itself rather than happening in the front end. Okay. Then we are just in the model runtime. What happens? We modify the model values. So what happens when we modify the model values? It's very simple. That we are just in our code, we are just modifying the model values and all, and then whenever we are just modifying the model values, the prepare interceptor is being called. We have a prepare interceptor, or in hybris there is a prepare interceptor is already been there, which is helping us to just modify the model values itself over there. And then we have the validate interceptor as well. So validate interceptor used to validate whatever the new values has come up. Let's say if we are just going to save a string instead of an integer or something like that into a model value, so we should get a model saving exception, right? That model saving exception itself, or those things, are actually loaded by the validator interceptor itself, or validate interceptor. And then we are having the model service dot remove method of wherever the remove interceptor is been called. So this is the typical interceptor life cycle or life cycle of a model in course of an interceptor itself is given over here. So now you will be having a question that how I have to write my own interceptor, or what happens if I am just writing my own interceptor. So we will come to that discussion, but before that, let us just have a quick look on a theory basis whatever we have discussed. Okay. So these are some of the interceptors. So if we just want to create our own interceptor, so these are the following interfaces that is already provided by Hybris. So basically these are already provided itself by Hybris for us, and these interfaces we are just going to implement in our real time if we are just going to implement any of the interceptors. Okay. So do we have any questions so far, or otherwise we can just quickly see that how the interceptors are being loaded. Okay. So if I just want to create my own interceptor, this is how the implementation itself looks like. So here I am just creating my own load interceptor itself, where it implements the, so my load interceptor implements the load interceptor, this interceptor which is like already available in Hybris. And then in the onload method, I will be just overriding the onload method and I will provide my own logic. And as part of the system, all we need to do is we need to just register it to the Spring bin of my extension spring.xml. Likewise, we have done it for the my test spring.xml, right? So in the my test spring.xml, whatever we had done, we had just registered the Spring bin. Here also, we are just going to do the same thing. For my load interceptor, I am just going to load it into my extension spring.xml, and that's the basic idea of it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Deepak. My question is how we are going to call this particular interceptor. Like this is for onload. So as you have registered a bean for the same, so once we start our server, it will be automatically called.
Okay. So let me just tell you, Kundan, you can put yourself on mute because in some of the other systems, I am on speaker, I believe, in your side. Okay. So what happens over here is like the interceptors are the Spring bin that has been loaded, right? So we have to do the antall, and while just starting up the server, the interceptors are already loaded. First of all, the second thing is whenever I am just going to instantiate the model or any model lifecycle event happens to the system, the interceptors are loaded automatically by the hybrid server. So while we are registering it as a Spring bin, and whenever the server is getting started, it is been mapped to the server itself, or it is been loaded to the server itself. Let's not say mapped. It is been loaded to the server itself. And what happens whenever we will be just instantiating the model lifecycle? Let's say we are just creating an object of a model and just going to use that itself. So in that, it is already been loaded by that time. Kundan, does that answer your question?
Yes, Deepak.
So anything else?
So this is for one for specific, like for onloads event, like this one is for onload load interceptor. So apart from that, we are having other interceptors also as on the screen also. So those will be also called on at the same time, or those will be called later on.
Okay. So whenever there is a model lifecycle event that occurs, the interceptors are getting called. Okay. First of all, so by default, Hybris server used to just call the interceptors in between, and it is getting called. Now you must have a question that means the question can be reframed like this: that I have written my load interceptor, right? So for all the models, will it take my interceptor or will it take the other interceptors as well?
Yeah.
Isn't it? So
Yes.
in that case, we call it as the interceptor mapping. So we have to map it with the particular data model that whenever our interceptor will load, because by default, by hybris, every time the load interceptor is getting called. Okay. But if I am just writing my own logic, means my own load interceptor, I have to provide or I have to tell the system that for this load interceptor is for this particular model, and we call it as the interceptor mapping.
Okay. So is there any possibility that we can call this interceptor when required?
Okay. Whenever it's required means whenever I used to register the interceptor itself. Okay. So you can see that the interceptor mapping is been done, right?
Okay.
So this is what is how the interceptor is getting called. So whenever I just used to go for the interceptor mapping, and you can see that in the reference itself, I am just giving the reference to my interceptor, and in the type code, I am giving the value of the model itself, right?
Yes.
So in here, what happens whenever the stadium model is getting called, our interceptor will get called. Otherwise, for all the other model lifecycle events, what happens? The default load interceptor by hybris that is getting called.
Okay. Yes. Thanks, Deepak.
Okay. So this is one part. Yeah, Manish, go ahead.
Deepak, actually, just I want to know, hybris is using on custom interceptor or either using a spring-based interceptor.
It's spring-based interceptor, and the validation framework that is actually it is using in the underlying layer. We will be having a small separate session regarding that. It is basically, let me tell you, that is the JSR 303 spring validation itself. So it's a spring-based interceptor that they are using.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah. So we have the interceptor mapped in like the way we are just registering the spring bin itself, and this is the way we are just mapping the interceptors itself into the system. Now we have the events itself. So these are the interceptors are basically for the model lifecycle. Whatever happens to a model lifecycle event itself, that we used to just trigger it with the interceptor, that how it works and what is actually happening over there. Okay. Means what all is the possible thing that is happening, what is been loaded. So the whole model lifecycle is there in our system. You can see that there were some of the validators, some of the things that used to come into action whenever we are just trying to save some wrong values. Even if you just take the copy trail example, and if you are just trying to save the stadium, okay, without the code, it is just telling you that there is some mandatory attribute code is missing or something like that. All of them are actually happening for this interceptors itself. And there is the validation framework, as I told you, the spring-based JSR 303 validation framework is also there. So now we will be just discussing about the events. So whoever is very familiar with the spring event system itself, like the spring events, hybris event system is exactly the same one. Hybris is basically using the spring event system itself in the underlying layer. Okay. So what happens, what is the spring event system is actually doing? So can any one of you, I would like to know that what all you are having as an idea, means as a spring event system. So can you tell me? Any one of you? We have something called here the publish event, registered listeners and all. So first of all, so I want to know a very small thing, that why we need the events into the system. And this is the answer I want in this way, that whether whoever is a non-Java people are there on the call, they should be able to understand the same. Can you just tell me, any one of you? Divya, Kundan, Manish, any one of you? So what I would like to know that why we use the Spring event system, or why we use the event system itself into the system.
So, sorry, Deepak, I'm not sure on this one.
No problem. So Divya, you there? Or Khaja? Yeah. Yeah, Khaja, go ahead. Yeah, tell me.
Deepak?
Yeah, tell me. Tell me.
Means to perform a task, events are used. Simply we can say.
Simply we can say to perform a task, event is being used.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, no problem. That's your view. That's absolutely fine. So Divya, you have any view on this?
Yes, actually, I'm not quite sure about the Spring event, but whatever the framework I have worked on based on the web MVC and all those things, in their events particularly, it is that if you have one function that is performing something, and if we write one event, we register that as an event. By calling the event, we can also call that function from any other functions. Well, calling call function, that is the relation. But event is actually, it can be registered to the web framework, so that it can be triggered from anywhere from the project or any.
Okay. So basically, what I got it like from Khaja and Divya, what I got. Let me just tell you. So event is something that actually we can call. Event is some task or some set of tasks we can call it from anywhere of the current system. That's it, right? That's what I got it. That's what we got it, right? And so the understanding is completely correct in this. It's on a high level overview, we can say it like this, that the event is something or someone like we can just call it from anywhere of the existing system itself. So let me just tell you what is that. So what we used to do is like, we used to write a function, or we used to write some set of tasks that is to be performed at some certain set of time. Or there might be some of the scenarios whenever a task is performed multiple times in the system. Okay. So in those cases itself, we use the Spring event system or the event system itself. So it's basically a software component which is act as a source and publishes an event that is received by the registered listeners. Means we will be having some of the code snippet which will start listening to our request, and whenever there is a request for that particular set of task, it will just perform that particular set of task for us, and we call it as the event listeners itself. So the task itself, we call it as an event, and whoever is just helping us to triggering the task, we call it as the event listeners. Okay. So event listeners are the objects that are notified of or event and perform business logic corresponding to the event that occurs. So basically what happens is like one event can have multiple listeners. Wherever the request comes, it performs the certain business logic that has been given over there. Okay. The event can be published locally or across the cluster nodes itself. What does that mean? So if as part of an application itself, if I just want to publish an event, so we will be calling this kind of publish methods and all are there basically. So we will see that If we just want to publish an event basically locally or across the cluster node, what happens? We can do that also using the event listeners. So one function or one set of tasks can be called from multiple locations whenever it is been required by the system, and that's where the event system is actually leveraging the whole concept of the service layer itself. Let's say for one API needs to be called every time whenever there is a means some service layer fetch or something that is happening. Okay, then we can just register it to a event system itself. Or let's say like there is a use case scenario whenever a mail needs to be triggered from the system. We have a mail needs to be triggered from the system. In that case also we can just, and that to multiple locations, not a single mail or something like that. To multiple locations we need to trigger a mail. So in that case also we use this Spring event system or hybris event system itself to just send mails to multiple locations. And when I say multiple locations, the mail body might be multiple bodies also will be there. And what we do in those cases is very simple. We used to get it, or we used to do it in this way, like we use multiple events or one single event, multiple listeners like that. So it will just send out the mails to the respective people, or it will just perform the particular work designed for particular people. So that's the very basic event system or the event system that we are having in context of hybris. How we are implementing the event now. So event is an instance of subclass abstract event and container source object. So we can see that basically whatever is there. So abstract item creation event. So it's item creation or something like that. There is an example. So you can just get a good example if you just try to trigger a mail from the system or likely multiple mails from the system itself. Let's take it in this way that if you can see the same thing in any one of you has worked on the B2B scenarios, like whoever has worked on hybris, I'm telling to them, you would have checked the order confirmation mail scenario itself wherever there is an event has been published over there. So we will see that in the code later on, but as of now, whoever has worked on the hybris, you can just have a look at that. So abstract persistent event is the superclass that it is just extending, and then we can just write our code over here in the creation event, after item creation event. So this is how, and there are some of the, okay, so this is how we are just calling the events itself here by implementing the event listeners. So whatever the listeners are doing, so according to Divya, we can just call it from at any point of time from our code, right, or from our application itself. And that task is done by the event listeners itself. So we can see that there are abstract event listeners itself. We will be extending the abstract event listener class. And then based on the event, whatever the event we have designed in the previous step itself. Okay. So that also we need to pass on, and then we have to override the on-event method. So whenever the on-event method is getting called, or whenever we are just overriding the on-event method, the stuff is been loaded, or the event listeners is been loaded for us. Okay, event listeners is loading the event for us basically, or we can say that it's just calling the event itself, or the calling the set of tasks which need to be performed basically on that particular event. So again, likely how we are just registering our event listeners. So we can just register it as a Spring bin of our, or as a bin in our Spring application context. Min extensions spring.xml, we can just add it, and otherwise we can use the event service as well. So in code we can call the event service, and using that event service itself we can register the listeners itself. So whatever my event listener will be there, we can call it using event service or just register it into the Spring bin. So most of the cases we used to use this method itself just to keep track of the whole system. Most of the cases it has been used. So again, we have the event service API to handle the whole thing, and whatever we are having over there. So like we have the registered event listeners, that whatever the event listeners we are creating, we can use them itself, and we can just publish event using the methods as well. So this is one of the method that is been used most of the time whenever event is been called. What we used to do is like we used to call this publish event method, and in this publish event method, whatever the method event body is there, or the function needs to be called as part of the event that is been defined over here. Okay. And to access this service, all we can do is we can just simply do the resource annotation mapping of this particular event service API that is provided as part of the hybris core itself. Means as part of the platform itself, this has been provided. So what I would like to know from you is like, so far, do you have any questions? Like whatever we are doing is like we are just performing some set of tasks at some certain set of points from anywhere of the code, wherever it is been required, with a single function. And that's what is actually the event system is all about. So any questions, guys? Anyone?
Deepak, Jaideep here.
Yeah, Jaideep, tell me.
So how you're linking the event with event listener?
So how so in this event service itself, so whenever in the typical methods, whatever it happens is like in the service layer itself, what we do, we used to call this publish event method in the listeners itself. So we are calling the event service, right? And we are just registering the event listeners with the in the event service, and in that we are actually calling this publish event method where the event name is there or event reference is there.
Okay.
Event name means the Spring Bin name.
Okay.
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 So yeah.
So my event listener will only handle my event, right? It will not receive any other event, right?
No. It will only receive the events whatever we have defined.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So any guys, any other questions from anyone else?
Hi, Deepak.
Yeah, tell me.
Actually, can you please explain that add resource annotation? Though I know that we need event service object inside our class, so we can do that as add record annotations as well. But is there any specific reason that we are using add resource annotation here?
No. You can use AutoAdd as well.
Okay. But add resource, is it something specific resource? What does it do instead of, if we are not using add or AutoAdd or any add required, whatever it may be, but add resource annotation, what is the use of that particular annotation?
So the add resource annotation, it is just it is just varying up the resource by the name that has been registered in the Spring Bin somewhere in the application.
Okay.
So it's a typical Spring annotation itself, which actually we are using, or which we are using in the code just to get the name wired into the system with the Spring bin name that is given in the application context. That's it. It's a normal Spring annotation.
Okay, so it's a normal way of registering dependency injection, right? We can do that.
Yes.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So sometimes if the add resource is not working, means it is not able to find out the exact Spring Bin definition for some reason, then in those cases we used to use the AutoAdd itself. So the AutoAdd is having a greater scope than this add resource itself, and what we used to do is like we used to get the Spring Bin registered Spring Bin name over there. So everywhere, if I am just using this, let's say event service, this name is defined as part of some of the application context in the existing hybrid system. So that's what we are doing. So the DI we are using, and this is the way of using it. That's it. Okay. So the event, means what are the events that can be there into the system, the asynchronous event and the synchronous event itself. So we can means just take this point itself, that our events, whatever has been there, whatever that by default, it actually performs or process synchronously. Okay. But if we want to get it honest, means asynchronously, the events, if we are just going to do it as asynchronously itself, so what we can do is like we can just possibly force the event to be processed asynchronously by configuring this platform cluster event sender or cluster aware events. So these are two of the interfaces that is already present in hybris. So if we are just pushing the event to be performed asynchronously itself, we can just invoke these two into our event itself. So what will happen? It will act as an asynchronous event itself, and it will be so. What will happen whenever the synchronous event is actually happening? It will not happen synchronous, and it will just try to get it for the asynchronous call itself, or it will just go for the asynchronous itself. But what happens in these cases, there will be multiple threads that will be in use, so there is a chance of network traffic to occur in the system. So for asynchronous event, the network traffic occurs into the system. That's a very basic idea of it. So asynchronous event, how we are just going to implement the cluster event itself. So all we need to do is we need to publish the event, right? So we need event service.publish event method, as I told you. So for our case also, we are just going to override the publish event method itself. And what actually is happening over here, that we can just simply get a source node ID and target node ID itself, and then we are just returning it. So these are some of the stuff that how the cluster aware event we can just invoke over there into the system. So these are some of the purely optional areas that we can quickly go through our events itself. Okay. So you can, so there are some other events as well, the transaction aware events and all those things. You can just quickly have a look at that by yourself. So if you require some input on my side, so most of the cases we will be using the normal synchronous events into the system itself. We don't use any of the asynchronous events or something, or we don't implement that as well. So what we used to do as part of the hybris event system is like we used to perform some set of tasks at some certain set of point, and we use this publish event method, where it will just, the listener will listen to that which event to be performed, and it used to perform the whole set of task itself. And this is typically all about the event, I would like to say. And if you just want to have a very good hold onto it, you can just quickly have a look at the Spring event system itself. And by that way, once we are just through with the Spring event system, it will be helpful for us, or it will be easier for us to understand the whole thing. Guys. So any questions from anything on the service layer, because we will be moving out of the service layer after this itself. Okay. So what we will do now is like we will be quickly go for one small topic, that is the dynamic model attribute itself. And dynamic model attribute, we don't have, or I don't have a PDF for the version 5 itself. So version 5 training PDFs of hybris, they are not having the dynamic model attribute PDF. So for this one, whatever I will be using, it's for version 4.8 itself, the hybris training PDF for 4.8. But the content is really good here, so that's why I'm just using it, and I will be sending a dump of it as well as I have sent the others to you guys. Okay. So before just starting onto the dynamic model attribute, so what actually comes in your mind that whenever we listen that there is something called dynamic model attribute itself? Sorry. So any idea, guys, that what is a dynamic model attribute itself for us?
Yes, Deepak. Deepak.
Yeah, tell me.
Which is created at runtime.
Okay.
So dynamic attribute.
Which is created at the runtime. One
Yeah.
point. So any other point? From anyone else?
Deepak?
Yeah, Divya, tell me.
As far as I understand, this could be a calculated value according to the input that we are getting from other attributes or any other coding.
Okay, so this would be a calculated attribute from any other coding or any other attribute. So from Manish, I got it like it will be calculated at the runtime, and you also told me the same thing. So any other, okay, that's absolutely fine. So any other input from anyone that what is the dynamic model attribute is all about? Kundan, Khaja, any input? As you have worked a little bit on this.
Yeah, hi Deepak. So when coming to dynamic attribute, so one thing which comes in my mind is at runtime we can add any values, means any number of values, and there are other functionalities, there are other features for these dynamic attributes.
Okay. So can you tell the other features as well? It's like what you are just mentioning as other features. Can you tell me that?
Features means they are. I'm not sure about other features, but one thing is at runtime we can add many number of values. That is one of the functionality of this dynamic attribute.
Okay. So what I would like to know from you is like what is dynamic model attribute, and what you are telling me is like what we can get out of a dynamic model attribute. That's absolutely fine. So I don't have a problem regarding that. So whatever you told is partially correct as well. So let us just quickly tell you what are the dynamic model attribute is all about. Okay. So we have seen in the items XML. So if I just open copy in my example itself, so what will happen is like I can see that in the copy items XML or copy trail items XML, we have used attribute as a persistent type property, isn't it? So persistent type property, what that guy is doing, or what the persistent type property is doing for us is very simple. Whenever it's a persistent type property, the system knows that this data will come from the outside source. The data to a particular column that will come from the outside source and stored into the database. That's what the persistent type property means. But at the same time, there might be some of the data that which is not going to come from the third party input itself, or if we go for the third party inputs or something like that, what will happen? It can lead to some of the data inconsistency itself. That also can be possible, right? So if I just say it in this way, like let's say for the copy trail itself, or for the copy trail players, copy players itself, we have the date of birth registered for them to the system. Okay. So let's say for me, if I just put my date of birth as, let's say, some 1st January 1980 into the system, and whenever there is another field that I have to include my age, okay, so I can just directly put the age as let's say 100 years or something. So what will happen if I just put the age as 100 years and my date of birth as 1980 itself? So it will lead to some of the data inconsistency to the system, right? the data won't be proper. And as a user, we can obviously do that. So there will be a data inconsistency and there will be a problem as well. So what we can do is, or what as a system administrator you can allow me, that I will be just giving the input to my date of birth, and from the date of birth itself our age will be calculated out of it. So in that case, what will happen, it will not lead to any of the data inconsistency, isn't it? Because the date is the age is getting calculated every time whenever the date of birth field is actually been given as an input, right? So this is where the age is used as a dynamic model attribute. So it will not be persisted into the database, but at the same time, whenever it's not persisted into the database, what will happen? It will be calculated out of the other attributes, what I got the information from Khaja and Divya as well. So this is a typical use, or this is a typical scenario of having a dynamic model attribute to the system. So we will be having, or we will be deriving an attribute from another attributes. And that's what is a dynamic model attribute is all about, and that's where the dynamic model attribute is being used as well. So is it clear, guys? Yeah, tell me.
It's a kind of validating the data, right?
No, it's not kind of validating the data. It's simply a part of the data modeling, or let me say that it's simply a part of the items.xml which is having some special features that it will not be stored into the database. But at the same time, whenever it's not be stored into the database, it will be calculated out of the other attributes, just to avoid the data inconsistency if there is anything. Or means the data inconsistency is one part of it, as I told you, but yeah, the use case I have given like that.
Yeah, Deepak, Kundan this side.
Yeah, Kundan, tell me.
Yeah, yesterday I asked one question that was related to this installation only, and there was one particular extension that the system was looking. And when I was debugging, although we were able to resolve that particular issue, but that was not the correct way what we did. But while I was going through the log messages, there was one message like dynamic attribute contact dot email address not found. So email address is also a dynamic attribute.
No, it should not be the case. So did you send me those screenshots and all to me? I don't think so. I got it.
Yes, correct. I didn't send that due to the reason I just tried once from my side by installing, removing the copy and installing the copy once again. So okay. That just saved my issue.
No problem. So the email should not be a dynamic attribute itself as of now. But maybe you can check the data model itself so that you will be able to get it. And what is the basic concept is to have the dynamic model attribute where the data will not be persisted into the database and it will not come as an input and sit into the database, but it will be derived from other attributes itself.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
No problem. So what happens over there is like.
Deepak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tell me.
I have some question.
Yeah, tell me.
Actually, let us have a scenario that for a student we have to take state of birth and we are also mentioning what its age as well. Okay. So in type system I have defined for a student item. So these are the attributes including the date of birth and the age as well. Attributes. Hello?
Yeah. Go ahead. I am just listening.
Okay. In front end also, are we going to take the age from the user as well? Because anyway, if I are going to create a new student each time by taking user registration something, in that case we have to take the user details, right? So in that case, we will take that age from the front end as well, because though we understand that if the age is a dynamic attribute, it's not going to be persisted to the database, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, are we going to use the take the age from the front end? If we are going to take the age from the front end, so how we are going to manage that in the backend side as well?
Okay.
And my next question is that if the age is a calculated value, each time we are displaying the user its details. So if the date of birth is 88 some student, so after 2015 there will be 1 year extra age gap, right? So in that case, the data that is fetched in next year, the data will be different, right? So I'm just confused on that. Can you please explain that in detail? That what would be the scenario in that case? You got my point? Yes?
Yeah, I got your point. So we will take this example itself, and if you see the service layer assignment, I have sent it to you and Jaideep. There is some scenarios like this as well. Okay. So we will take this as an account, and I will tell you that what would be the possible solution, and I would be like to see the solution from your end itself on this. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah. So let me tell you what the problem you have told is absolutely correct. That we are using the dynamic model attribute to just store the data dynamically, or not to store the data, but to calculate it dynamically into the database, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So what we actually do in the registration scenario of the particular user or the particular whoever that is just registering to the system, what they can do is like, okay, they can give the date of birth, but we don't allow the user to display to give the input of the age, because if we give the opportunity to the user to give the input of the age, then there will be a database conflict, right? In one hand, the attribute is a dynamic model attribute. In other hand, the persistent type is property. So how it can be there as part of the single attribute? So a single column cannot be dynamic and cannot be static at the same time, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is one part that we need to think of it. So we can either put a column as a dynamic column, or we can put a column as a static column. Okay, so this is one thing. And as you can see in the first point, it is telling that the normal item attributes are part of the data. An item is able to be persisted into the database. And normally the attributes are like that. So if I open any of the, or I will show it to you anyway. So we will not make it either persistent type property or a persistent type dynamic we can use. So first solution is to use the persistent type dynamic, and we don't give the user an option to input the age over there. But yeah, there can be a DOV field, date of birth field, which the user will just give an input to the system. Okay.
Okay.
And what will happen? We used to derive the age out of that.
Okay. In case of fetching, we can show that derived output from calculating from the data. Okay, yes. So in that case, each year the user, if user is there for 5 years in a college, so each time he is logging, the data will be different for him. The age will be automatic increasing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now the question is how, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we will answer that now itself, and in course of time also we will answer that how the age is going to be different every time. So whenever we are just creating the attributes itself, the normal attributes, wherever the persistent type property, we do the and all, and the model class is generated, right? Mm-hmm. So in the model classes, if you see the model classes itself, then the normal attributes will be fetched itself from the database, and there will be some of the getters and setters will be also generated, isn't it?
Yes.
So whenever the getters and setters is generated for us, so we use the getters to get the value and setters to set the value itself.
Yes.
Now what will be the first step to just stop the data to be stored into the database? That we need to restrict the setter, right? We can get the value, but we are not setting it up.
Yes, yes.
That's a very basic idea. This is the first thing that we need to keep in our mind. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that also we will see that how we can do that.
But that we can do that from the modifier, right? We are not going to generate the settings from that.
Okay, one part you have already told us that we have to modify something in the modifiers in the items.xml snippet. That's the exact reply I was expecting. Okay, so this is how and what are the dynamic model attributes is all about, and let's just go for it. So let me quickly go to this cup of iris. My capital is there. Yeah. So I will try to write the code snippet itself for us, and like the normal age code snippet in the stadium itself, I am just writing just the code snippet itself. For the sake of the code snippet, I will write that. So in here, I will write attribute itself, which is supposed to be a dynamic model attribute. So let's say type is age, qualifier is so the first change will be like so you can see in the bubble itself, the last is actually telling me that the persistent property should be dynamic, which is not persisted into the database. Okay, so persistent type dynamic is done. Then I have given the persistent type dynamic, and when I do the AND all, the system will know that it is not a persisted column to the database. Then what will happen? Okay, the second thing is like what I got from Divya is like we need to do something into the modifiers. So modifiers, I will just put it here itself in the same attributes. Optional. This optional is not required for us. So modifier read is equals to true. We need to give just for the getter method to be generated, and write false as the setter method needs not to be generated itself. So modifier read true, write false we need to give. This is one typical thing. So the first thing is like I will tell that into the database that the persistent type will be dynamic for this guy, and modifier. Yeah.
Actually, in attribute, you have mentioned qualifier should be in the type. Yeah. In the type should be the qualifier, and should be.
Yeah, I have seen that. Basically, while writing, I just missed it out.
Here, okay. Another question we have one as well, but let me ask that here as well if we have gone through the item.xml. While generate type is true for item, if we are modifying for generate is false for the item, in attribute if we are mentioning that modifier read is false, then there is no error. No error. But if items in item type, if the generate is true and modifier read is false, then we are getting error. You got my point?
Can you just come again, please?
Okay. So like in item type, if generate is true and modifier read is false, then we are
generate true, modifier read false. Okay.
Modifier read false, then we are getting error.
Okay.
But if the generate is false and modifier read is true, modifier read is false, then we are not getting any error. So is there any combination that it should work, or there is, we don't understand that why? Because as per my understanding, if we are mentioning modifier read and write true, then setter getter method should be generated, right?
Yeah.
But we are getting some exception somewhere in the combination here. So if there is any specific that we can.
There is no such specific thing. So if you can just send me those test cases, like the code snippet itself, like you have done for the previous cases. So I will just try to check that in the system, and I will let you know that. Okay.
Okay.
As of now, just yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So now, attribute qualifier age type integer I have given, and then the persistent type dynamic I have also given. Modifier read true, write false also given. So everything is fine. Now I am stuck at one point. How the system will know that this needs to be calculated from my own logic? Means, are you getting what I am telling here?
Because you mentioned type is.
Yeah, type is dynamic. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Okay. So what actually I am just asking over here is like, let's say I'm just giving the persistent type dynamic, so the system knows the dynamic itself. So where is the logic? My question is, where is the logic that I am telling the system that this is from where I have to calculate my age? Are you getting my point? So where is the business logic from where we are just going to calculate the whole thing? And we have to put something over here itself where the mouse cursor is blinking after dynamic. We have to put it as attribute handler here. We have to define an attribute handler. Sorry, just some problem is, so let me just quickly paste it here. So attribute handler and then display age. Just put it in this way. Okay. So persistent type dynamic, and then I have just written the attribute handler, and there's something I have written as display age. So can any one of you tell me what is this display age is all about?
Deepak?
Yeah, Divya, tell me.
It would be a function in my understanding. Otherwise, there is another way also. The get method that we have generated for the age. In that we can write the our own logic to get the age from the other attribute. Because in module class anyway we are returning the age, right? And we can modify the code there in the age, and we can get the date of birth from there and calculate the age, and we can return that dynamically. That is also possible.
Okay, so let us just see the first if whatever we have just done so far itself, that we see that, and then we'll take the other stuff itself what you have told. Okay, so here the attribute handler is nothing but our business logic, whatever we are just going to implement for our dynamic model attribute. Okay. So let me just tell it in this way. We have to calculate the age out of the date of birth, right? So there will be some age calculator.java I need to write, which will just subtract the date of birth from the current date to calculate the value of the age, isn't it? So the Spring bin name of that particular class is display age here. So display age is nothing but it is registered into the application's Spring context, and it is referring to the class where my attribute handler is been defined, or where my business logic is defined for this particular attribute. So did you get that? Means what I told? I told it's a very simple thing. So first of all, so dynamic model attribute, there are three things in it. There is very simple three things. In the attribute qualifier, we have given the qualifier name and the persistent type. The first change is persistent type name is dynamic. Then the second change is we have to put it as the modifier read true and write false, because we don't need the setters itself. So once we have done these two, the third part that is left out is the logic which we will be using, okay, or the logic which we will be using to get the value out of it, or get the value for that particular attribute itself, and we call it as the attribute handler itself here. This attribute handler is what is actually what it is doing for us. It is just doing a very simple job. It is just taking the Spring bin ID, okay, So you can just see that the Spring Bean ID that handles the dynamic model attributes implementation. The display age is the Spring Bean ID for our Java class, which we will be writing to get the age out of it. And this is the example that I have given, or I just wanted you to just go through it. Okay. I just want you guys to go through the whole thing itself as part of the service layer assignment. If you check that, there is a column for this as well. So this is what the typical dynamic model attribute is all about. It's as simple as that. So change the persistent property to dynamic, write the attribute handler class, register the attribute handler class as a Spring Bean, and use the Spring Bean in the items XML. Everything should be fine and it will be properly calculated if you don't have a problem in the Java code of it. Java code means the attribute handler, the logic, whatever we have provided. Now, any questions, or then I will just go for the further steps itself for this.
Yeah, Deepak, Jaideep here.
Yes, Jaideep, tell me.
So is there a standard method that we have to implement in display age, the attribute handler class to be called?
No.
So where do we define the logic? There has to be a method, right?
In the attribute handler class itself, you can just define the logic itself. So let me just show it to you here. So you can see that the get method is there, right? In the attribute handler, there will be a get method, and in that get method, whatever the get method is there, you will be just doing that. Is it the question that you were asking?
Yeah, I was asking. I wanted to know what method.
Okay. So it will be my attribute handler, whatever I will be writing, and it will be implementing the dynamic attribute handler of hybris. Okay. It will take the model, like which model I am just going to put it, and we will be overriding the get method. That's it.
Okay, thanks.
And this is the typical items.xml modifications that we have over here. So dynamic model attribute is this much simple for us. So we will be just writing it out and we will be resetting it, and that's it, done. Okay. So what I would like to know that, let's say I have given, so let me change my code snippet as it is there. So I have given this, only this. What will happen if I do the AND? So I have not defined the dynamic attribute handler for my system. Okay.
Either it will complain about it, or if there is a default handler that would be used.
Okay. So this is Jaideep, right?
Yes.
So I will answer this question. So this was the question I was just supposed to ask. So guys, whoever have worked with hybris, Divya, Khaja, so can you guys tell me the answer of this? Or can you guys tell Jaideep the answer of it?
It will throw an.
Sorry?
Hi, Deepak.
Yeah.
If you are not the question, if I understanding the question is well, if you are not providing any handler method, is it going to throw an error? Is that the question?
The question is like what Jaideep has asked us, that if we are not giving the dynamic attribute handler over here, will so the first case is like, will it fail in the AND? If it fail in the okay, so what will happen in that case? If it doesn't fail in the AND, cause only the AND parse the items.xml, right?
Right, but that attribute that we have written here, the persistent type is only defining that what would be the persistent type. It doesn't check for the implementation class, right? In AND, it will try to create the attribute in the type system. But in that case, we are not able to set the data, but we are also not getting any data in get as well.
Okay, so let me just tell you one small thing that whether if we are not having the attribute handler given over there, okay, so what will happen? It will try to create a dynamic column itself, and the dynamic column means out of what the dynamic column will be created. They need to get something, right? They need to get something that based on what the dynamic columns will be created,
Okay.
isn't it?
Yes.
So what
yes.
will happen? Anyway, you've told that the ant will not fail. Basically, what happens, is like, let me tell you here. There is the default dynamic attribute handler is there, right, by hybris. The default dynamic attribute handler is there by hybris, so it used to take that dynamic attribute handler and pass on, means it creates the dynamic column over there into the database. So it won't be our own logic, it will be the default hybris logic provided for the dynamic attribute handler. That's the very simple thing that will happen for it. So there is a default, so answering to Jaideep's question, if we don't define the dynamic attribute, the attribute handler itself in the line number 57 in my screen, so what will happen? It will pass the ant up and it will take the account of the default attribute handler of hybris and it will create the dynamic column over there. But we will not get the value of ours, that's for sure. But the column will be created basically. Did you get my point, Jaideep and Divya?
And Deepak?
Yeah.
So if there is a default handler for that, so where can we find that logic, where it is going to generate that particular class?
So the default handler again is a distribution along with the platform bundle. So we will not be having the access to that. So you can see that in the code snippet itself, wherever I have showed it to Jaideep, that this is the one. The dynamic attribute handler is a class, is the interface that hybris is already providing us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it will take account of this interface and it will just pass the ant itself. The dynamic column it will create based on this dynamic attribute handler. But yeah, our attribute handler will not be there, that's for sure. But this is the one which will pass the ant. The column will be created anyway.
Okay, the column will be created, but if we are going for the edge in this place, so in that case we are not able to get the edge in the get method. The ant will not fail, that is okay because for the dynamic attribute. Mm-hmm. But we are also not able to get the edge. Okay. Okay, so this is for this particular dynamic attribute handler that is here generating. It is same for all the case if we are not providing any attribute handler. So the code snippet that we have given, that will be generated for all the attribute whose values are dynamic and their attribute handler is not there. Or is it going to differ from attribute to attribute?
No, it will not differ from attribute to attribute.
Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions from anyone?
Deepak, Khajal said, so I want to ask, while creating this dynamic attribute, in this item data modeling part, when we mentioned that their dynamic, just 1 minute.
The persistent type is equal to dynamic, that's what you were referring?
Persistence type is equal to dynamic, and you have given attribute handler is equal to display age. So when we do ant all, then it will create a dynamic column of with name age. So here you have only mentioned only getter. So if we want to perform any business logic for this, for calculating that age, something validating the age like that. So if we mention attribute handler is equal to display age, then there we can mention, right? Otherwise it's only.
See, the display age, as I told you, is the Spring bin name of the age calculator.java. Let's say that age calculator.java is the file. which is actually the age calculator.java is the file which is actually calculating the age for you. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So the logic will be stored there actually.
Yeah, the business logic will be stored there in my age calculator.java, and the bin name of age calculator.java, I have defined it as display age, say, and that bin name I am just passing here.
Okay, so here we are creating a reference for that.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. One more request, Deepak. So I want another example on this, like apart from age, another example. Just give me a best example, one more, if you don't mind.
Okay, no problem. So let's say the dynamic model attribute. Okay. So let's say we are just using the employee portal itself. Okay. In the employee portal, we are having the salary stacks. So the salary, there is a salary item means attributes will be there. Then let's say there is a net salary, which is like the gross salary and all the deductions itself. So what will happen if I just give the user if I give the user a privilege to give the net salary as an input, they can put anything in that column itself, right? But instead of that, we can just put the net salary as a dynamic attribute where the gross salary will be a persistent property and all the deductions will be a persistent property itself, and it will take and it will subtract from the whole thing. Means like from gross salary to the deductions, it will deduct the whole thing, and then it will display the net salary itself by default. So whenever there is a calculation or there is a means that need not to be stored into the database first of all, then that can lead to any kind of data inconsistency if there is a manual intervention is there, and in those kind of cases we use this dynamic model attribute solution, which is basically stored in the system and just getting the information from the system itself and displaying it in the front end. So what I would request you is like go to the service layer assignment, whatever I have shared, and just try the dynamic model attribute itself by yourself. And if you are not able to do it, then I will send it across the solution to you guys.
Thanks, Deepak. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So guys, just one quick 1 minute break that we will be have, and then we will resume the class again. So guys, I'm back. Okay, so we'll just start with the next part of it. So we have seen the dynamic model attribute, and I will be sharing some of the links wherever you can just find out some good documents over there, and the PPT, whatever I have used, I will send this one as well to you guys. So by this way, it should be clear to us. So we have a plan to just start a new topic today. That is a cron job. Okay. So we will be just starting the cron job itself discussion. So before that, any questions? So just for a quick check that we have any questions on any of the previous topics, service layer or dynamic model attribute or cockpits or anything that we are having. So if you are having a complete technical questions or anything you are stuck at the technical level, obviously you can just drop me a mail at any point of time. So I will be just replying back on them. So it should not be a problem for me. But if you have any quick question that on the understanding basis or something, you can just quickly go ahead. Okay. So we will just start. Yeah.
Deepak?
Yeah. Who's that? Yeah, Khaja, tell me.
In this creating dynamic attribute, whenever the customer will suppose the customer will mention his age there, so it will calculate and display the age like that. And if the data, if you want to store the data of a particular customer into a backend database, then there is no setter, right? So how it is possible?
So it's basically, Khaja, just let me tell you one small thing. What is actually happening? Can you just, are you getting it? So in here, the dynamic model attribute, the data is getting calculated in the backend, and we are using the getter to get the data and display it in the front end. We are not storing that into the database. The setter is only used if we are storing something to the database, and we are just going to set it over there itself as the persistent type property. So basically, like, the data is already there. The data is getting calculated in the get method. It is returning the value of the particular age itself. Okay. Typically, age calculator.java, it is just displaying the age itself, and whatever it is just doing for us, while it is displaying the age, we are using the getter method in the code to get the age itself into the front end. That's all. That's a very simple understanding of it. So you can just give a try of this. As I told you that in the assignment, whatever I have shared, you will be having a very detailed clarifications, or if you require any clarifications on my end, I will obviously send it across. But if you just try to do it, all of the stuff, whatever we have done so far, it will be clear to you. Means all the core practices, whatever is there, it will be clear. So you can just try it out.
Sure.
And there will be and the assignment whatever I have given, that is not dependent on any of the extensions. Like, we don't need to depend on copy or anything. It's a singleton alone extension that, like the my test I have shown you last time, right? It will be like that. Okay. So what I'm just going to do is, I'm just going to discuss about the cron job right now. Okay. So what happens in this cron job is, like, do we have any idea that what the cron job is all about?
Like performing a job in a particular given interval of time.
So performing a job in a particular given interval of time. That's the one you are just mentioning over here, right?
Yes, Deepak.
So what? So any idea from anyone else regarding this?
Deepak?
Yeah,
Deepak,
tell me.
It's a scheduled job, runs at particular set time.
It's a scheduled job, runs at a particular time. Yeah, okay, fine. So, Divya, you have anything for us here?
It's a cron job. It's a set of instructions that needs to be executed according to the business requirement independently. It can execute in a particular time, or we can call in case of any in some condition we can call that as well. So it's a set of instructions that need to be executed for particular business scenario or particular condition. We can take that as well.
Okay, so let us just quickly tell that. So the most crisp answer I would like to say that what I got it from Jaideep here. So the point is very simple, that we are performing some set of task, okay, some one task or maybe some set of task itself at some particular point of time or at some particular scheduled time itself. Whatever you have told you and Khaja has told is also correct, Divya. But the most crisp answer I got it like this itself, that we are just performing some task or some set of task at some particular point of time, and that's what cron job is all about. So we will just have an overview of the cron job, and there are some of the conventions as well. And in the trail itself, you will be having an exercise itself for the cron job. You can just practice it out. It will be way clear to you. And the code snippet anyway, I will tell you. So the cron jobs are some of the automated tasks performed at a certain time, or some of the fixed interval itself. The cron jobs can be used as a backup. It can be updating, synchronizing the catalog content, import, export, or recalculating the price. There are several tasks that can be assigned with a cron job. Okay. So that can be assigned with the cron job itself over here. That these are some of the key facts. So it is basically, the first thing is it an automated job. So we will be writing the code once, and the whole thing will be taken care multiple times or in some certain intervals or some certain point of time itself. That is a scheduler part of it. So the first point itself is the logic, that whatever we are going to define. The second point is the time for that. And the third point is the use cases where we can or what we can do with it. There are several other examples as well. So as part of the previous understanding, what we can see that the cron job is having two things. One is the job. One is the trigger. Trigger means the scheduler itself, isn't it? So the first of all, we need to know that what we are going to perform, and the second thing is like when we are going to perform the same thing, and that's what the cron job is all about. And on overview over here itself, we have the runtime itself. So in the cron job, we have the runtime informations that is been stored as part of it. So whatever is that is like we have the job and the trigger, and we have the cron information. We used to say that. So for cron job, there is already an existing data model in hybris. Okay. So we are just loading that information with our job and the trigger information. That's the cron job itself. So basically the cron job is having two main parts and one cron information. And it allows the reusing of code and items. So whatever we are writing in a cron job, that should be that can be used multiple times in the system, and the multiple items also can be used. The cron job always run in a session context, means whoever the user is there is triggering the cron job, it should be assigned to that particular user. If the user, for the anonymous itself, so you okay, fine. Let us just put it in this way. Let's say so then I can say that the user must be assigned whenever the cron job is actually running. Okay. Now you might ask me a question that whenever there is a scheduler or something that is just going through the server startup itself, so it is just going on by the time of the server startup, how we are handling that, or who is the user assigned to it. So by default, the admin is the user, the system administrator or the admin is the user who is assigned to the cron job itself whenever it is not directly specified for any particular user, but the cron job should be assigned to a user itself in the system. Are you getting my point?
Deepak?
Yeah.
Please, could you come back on again?
Okay. So the whole thing, I need to come back again, Manish, or I can just say the last part itself.
Last part.
Okay. So the cron job always run in a session context means they have to have a user assigned. So if any end user is just triggering a cron job from the front end, that is also fine. The user should be assigned. Or if means whenever a cron job is actually running, we must have a user assigned to it. Now you will be having a question whenever the system startup is happening or something like that. Let's say I'm starting the server and there are some of the schedulers I have mentioned in this way that whenever the system startup happens, those schedulers will run, right? So there, who will be the user assigned to it? Because the system is still just being up and running, right? So that answer to that question is the admin user is the default user who is assigned for all the cron jobs itself. Did you get my point?
Yes.
So the system administrator is the user who is by default assigned to the cron jobs, which is not assigned to any of the users, or during the system startup, whatever the schedulers are getting triggered itself. That's the what I told. But the cron job must have a user assigned every time. And for cron job, there is a very good feature that we use in the B2B scenarios. I will show it to you guys whenever we will be starting the commerce. And there are some other cron job features as well. It's really having some nice scope in hybris as part of the cron job. Okay. So let me just quickly go back here. So we have this tree itself. So whatever we are going to perform is the job logic or the program logic itself. Okay. Then we have the trigger, which is typically some of the data load and the cron information. So the first question comes that whenever I am just writing a job, which method I need to override or which interface I need to implement or which class I have to extend like that, right? So for that, we are writing or we are using that abstract job performable interface or job performable interface itself. So this job performable interface is nothing but it is a default interface provided by Hybris, which is taking care of the whole cron job scenario itself. So whenever we will be writing a cron job, we have to implement the job performable interface and cron job model. So my job implements the job performable interface and I am just going to override the perform method. So whenever you will be writing a job itself, you have to just do this thing, the job performable interface and the perform method overriding. Yeah, tell me.
Deepak, actually, this interface, job performable, this is a model driven?
Yeah, the cron job model driven.
Means we have to pass a cron job model or our specific model?
No, we have to pass the cron job model itself, because the cron job is not basically, let me just tell you in this way, whatever we are just doing in our model, we will be writing it in the logic itself if we want to do something.
Okay.
So we have to pass the cron job model in the job performable interface.
So firstly we have to create cron job model. Is it?
Cron job model is already there in the system.
Okay.
I will show that to you itself, that cron job model is already present in the system.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So in the job performable interface, we have to just implement the perform method. Means we have to override the perform method itself. And then I have to just register it into the Spring bin. So like the Spring application context, I have to map the class, whatever I have written. The second part of it is very simple, that we have to update the cron information. So Manish, this is the cron job model that we are already having in Hybris. So whatever I have done is like I have added my job, whatever I have created, and then I have registered the bin ID as my job over here like this, that lowercase m and lowercase m basically. So what I am just doing over here in the cron job table or the cron job model, I am registering my job itself over here. So I am just giving a my cron job code. So this is the cron job code that I am just giving for this cron job model or cron job table. Then the job code is my job, which is the bin ID of my class or of my logic. Single executable flag, I have put it as false, and session language, I have put it as German.
Okay.
Or whatever that is. So I have added or I have updated the cron information, means this one. Okay. So I have written this, registered this guy as a spring bin, and then I have just added this cron job information over here.
Deepak, could you please come back on previous slide?
Yes.
Okay. Inside this method, the perform method, can we call our resources impacts inside this method to load the impacts? Means just I want to import the all impacts which is reside inside resources folder. Can we write the logic to perform for that inside this method?
Can you just come again? Means I am not getting the question basically, Manish. Yeah.
Just I want to load the impacts files using Java using the cron job.
Yeah.
So we can write here. We can write here inside the.
Obviously, we can write that.
Okay. And this is means job performable interface method, or this is a custom created.
Which one? The import?
No.
Then?
Perform. This is a perform method.
The perform method, whatever is there, it is a part of the job performable. We have to override. The override is annotation is not given over here, but we have to override the perform method every time. Whenever you see that the job performable interface is actually taken care, we have to override the perform method of that interface, and then we have to write our own logic.
Okay. So apart from this method, can we create another our own method to perform some specific task inside the cron job?
So the basic idea is that we have to means override perform method, and whatever the logic I just want to put it, or the set of tasks I just want to perform over here, I can put it over there itself in the logic area.
Okay. Means we can also call another method inside this method. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
Okay. So this is what. So I have job performable. Then I have registered the job as spring and as a spring bin itself, and the spring bin I am just adding up as the job code in the cron job table, and I am writing the trigger using the cron job code. So step 1 is the job, step 2 is the spring bin registration, step 3 is the registering the spring bin which is created in the step 2, and step 4 is like creating the trigger which is been created, which entry has been created as part of the cron job model in step 3. That's it. Okay, so in the trigger we have to just have something over here, that is the cron, means we are just passing the cron job code like this, that is fine. Then we have something called the cron expression. Now the question is, what is this cron expression? This is something or some kind of a wildcard stuff that we are using, or some of the expressions that we are using. This is likely every day. This is so the cron expression also you will get it from wiki in the cron job. Whatever the tutorial that is given, the cron expression is given over there. What the cron expressions are actually meaning for that. So this is what it is just talking about. Every day 12 o'clock it will start. Okay, like that the star and this wildcards has been used. Even if we are just going to give some of the particular time up to the seconds, means like the day, date, and hour, minute, second format also we can give. So it's like the DD and YY, and then the hour, minute, second, like that we can just give it. What is the meaning of the cron expression, that also you will get it from the wiki example itself. It's particularly written over there, or if you are not able to find it out, let me know. I will just share the cron expressions itself with you. So by that way, we are just writing the trigger itself. And there is some of the other way of writing a cron job as well. Let's say some of the cron job or some of the data load I just want to use as part of the service layer itself. So I just want to hook my cron job along with the service layer itself. So how I am just going to do that? I just want to, I can just simply put it to the service layer fetch itself. So what is that? The service layer fetch means I can just simply add it to the service layer job, and what will happen? It will, whenever there is a system update or system initialization that happens, it will just run my cron job itself. This is the service layer job, and it will work on the admin context. Are you getting it?
Yeah, yes, Deepak.
Okay. Now, if I just want to load, or if I just want to run a cron job automatically after its creation itself, then what we are just going to do? We can just simply add this line after the whenever we are just loading these triggers itself, that after each impex get last imported time, set activation time to the new date object. So this is something like we are just invoking the impex API or the impex import service API just to load the item, okay, immediately after creation. So whenever the cron job has been loaded, the trigger has been loaded, it will take the new date instance, means that is the date object it will create, and the it will set the activation time immediately over there, and it will start running. So along with the trigger or along with the cron job itself, if we just add up this line, it will just directly load or directly start. Just a second. It will just directly load the data into the system itself. Okay, or directly run the cron job into the system. That's the basic idea of it. Now, what actually what are the all ways that we can just run the cron job? And let us quickly go. So we have seen so many things in the PPT itself right now, and let us just quickly have a look at the system where we can see the cron job and what are the cron jobs that is available itself in the system. Okay. Guys, just let me know once you are not able to follow any part or something, okay? Just let me know that. So, so in here, if I just log into hybris management console, so I can, so where I can find the cron job, guys, whoever is very familiar to the systems, can you tell me?
Deepak, system.
Yeah, tell me. System.
Go to,
okay.
yeah.
So if, yeah, in the system I can see cron job here itself. That's the area where I can find the cron job. And in the advanced configuration, if I can open it, I can see another cron jobs here. What is this one? Any idea?
It is like activating the triggers for cron job.
It is activating the triggers for cron job. Okay, it's fine. So Divya, any idea that what this cron job is doing in the system?
No, I don't have any idea. Hello?
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely fine. So this is the default cron job configuration that we are having for hybris itself. So there are some of the service layer jobs and all that needs to be started up, or there are some of the hooks itself that need to be run, and we are defining that trigger interval over here. Let's say like let me so there are if you just start the server itself, you can see that the console is updating in some point of time itself in some certain intervals. So there are some of the jobs actually means we are just testing the trigger interval like this. Okay, and we have the test mail configuration as well. So test mail configuration means whatever the test mail we are just going to use for if we have some of the features, we can use it as well. So but let us quickly see the bigger scope itself. This is a smaller scope. I just wanted to tell you, that's why I just told it. So the cron job is basically whatever we are having in the system. We are having some of the schedulers like this. So you can see that there are so many schedulers over here. Even every Impex import is also a cron job, where the trigger is being triggered directly from the system when we are clicking on the import button. Okay. So let us just quickly have a look at what the cron job is offering us in our case. So this is what the task is all about. We have the task itself over here, where we are having the job name itself. The job name is the default one that is assigned by hybris basically. And then we have the notification system. So notification system means whenever we are performing a cron job, as part of the cron job model, we have or we can send out the schedule itself, like send out the notifications to a particular email ID or a distribution list as well from the system. And what happens in that case is like we just send the information to the system, and we have the default cron job finish notification email template as well. So we have the email template notifications itself over here, which is just basically the cron job finish notification template. It is provided as part of the platform. So the cron job feature is means this email notification enablement is already there as part of it. So if you just enable this flag itself and just provide the email address, and if you have the proper SMTP setup, that is the email setup done in the project.properties or local.properties, wherever it is applicable for you, so you will be able to send out the mails itself from the system. Okay, then you can see that what are all that happened with this. So log in the HMC and those things itself. Then we can see that the run as column, whatever is that, is who is the user who is running, whatever the language and whatever the currency. So I was just talking about the user must be assigned to it, right? You can see for the Impex import, wherever I'm just adding the Impex from the admin console, or there might be the data load happen during the server startup, the admin is sole responsible for it. Okay. So so what happens over here is like then we have the time schedule where we can just create the trigger. So I can create the trigger for existing cron job itself. You can see that the execution interval we can create it. The execution we can create it daily, weekly, or monthly, whatever is that. And if I just want to set the current time itself, I can just set the current time as well to set the cron job over here. So if I just want to put the intervals itself like this, or let's say some monthly like this, so what will happen? The interval, the choose time and day part itself, it's getting changed every time based on whatever I am just mentioning over here. So this is typically the trigger itself. This is typically the trigger is all about. Then we have the log. Let's say a cron job is failing. Yeah.
What
me.
about the free interval?
So free interval means like we will be not providing any of the triggers itself. The trigger value will not be there. And whenever I just want to just launch the cron job itself, I can come to admin console or management console and start the cron job over there. It will be free of any intervals itself.
Means I'm not getting.
Yeah.
When it will be executed?
Okay. Let me show it to you. So you can see that basically like whenever the free interval means like I just want to put the cron job in such a way that it runs or it just goes from interval to interval, means like from starting from now itself it goes for some particular intervals up to the days, month, years itself. Okay. So I can set it up like every 9 month this much hours, this much second itself this will run. So free interval means starting from now onwards when it will be triggered, or if we just want to set it up, that also we can do it here itself. So free interval is this one. So we can just put the interval range. Means as of now, after every 9 months, 15 hours, 16 minutes, 13 seconds, this particular job will run if the system is up and running.
Okay, fine.
So starting from now itself, we are just going for the further next pass itself we can define. Then we can just put the cron expression as well. So cron expression anyway, as I told you that you can just have a look at it. So the cron expression is also there. So we can just use the cron expression to see the cron jobs like whenever it will run or something like that. Then what I was just discussing is a log itself. So what the log is, if the cron job is not successful, okay. So what happens if the cron job is not successful? What are the problem that happened while passing the cron job? It is also displayed over here with the time and date format and everything in account. It used to get displayed over here itself, and you can see that there is a log file also been created. So whenever there is a failure, a log file is been created. We can download the log file and we can check the log file as well. Okay, just a second. So if I just want to see the cron job log, that where it has been failed or something. So what happened over here, each and everything, the value entry and everything, this whole part is been displayed over here. So this is another feature of the cron job. And what I would require from you is like you guys can write one small program if you are confident enough and if you are getting some time, that whenever there will be a log, you can write a job which will take these logs and delete it. So this would be a typical advanced example that you can just try it out. So everywhere there is a log file that will be created. So in the log folder, you will be getting this logs itself. And what I require from you is like, you will be using some of the methods, you will be writing a cron job so that whenever the user runs the cron job, it deletes the log files, okay, from the system. So you can just try that out. Then we have the system recovery options. So system recovery options means if I'm just running a job and there is something happened during the system glitch. So can we just recover the system to the previous state? Yes, we can. So these are some of the system recovery flag that we are having as part of a cron job. And the last part is like the administration tab. So the last result or whatever that has happened for a particular cron job, we can just have a look at that itself over here. Now, you might be having a question that whenever, Deepak, you are telling that whenever we will be writing a job, it will perform the task that whatever is been given to us, right? So in that case, what will happen, or in that case, what we are just going to handle the scenario is in a very simple way. We have to make a job as a abortable one. Means whenever a job is actually running, we can have, or we can have a way to just abort the job itself. Okay. So that is the abort cron job is actually been disabled over here. So let me tell you, in the job performable interface, there is a Boolean function that is abortable. Basically, a Boolean function that is that an is abortable is false every time by default. So if I just want to make my job abortable once, all I need to do is I have to make that flag as true. I need to make the flag as true for the is abortable flag, and what happens over there, if I just make that is abortable flag as true, it will just abort the job, or we can abort the job while it is running, and we can just roll back the system. Okay, so what I would require the cron job exercise from you. So if you want it to be written in a written format, I can drop you a mail to the concerned people, maybe Amit or Jaideep, whoever is, or Divya also, because these three people are interacting with me. So I will be dropping a mail that what is the expectation, that whenever you will be pretty much sure with the cron job, then all you need to do is you have to create a abortable cron job which will take the log files from the system, the cron job log files basically, and it will delete it. And then we will just make the query more specific out of it. Like we will just generally delete the log, then we will just delete the log only when a cron job error occurs. The cron job error occurs, one file is created, delete it right away. So it will be the second phase of it. So first of all, you have a service layer assignment, and then you can just add it up in the cron job list as well. So you can just use the cron job features as well, just to load the whole thing. And whatever I have just told you right now. So there are various ways to run the cron job. So I have seen that, or we have seen that in HMC we can just click on the start cron job now, and it will start the cron job itself for us. Then we can use the same thing using ant as well. So what will happen using ant? We have to run the ant run cron job, decron job, and then the cron job name means basically whatever is been loaded as part of the cron job table. Okay, that unique name I need to use. Then we have the cron job service API as well. So in the cron job service API, whatever we are just going to use the cron job service dot perform cron job, and here I have to pass my model whatever I am just going to create the cron job, means the job ID itself, this guy I have to provide over here. So first of all, the cron job can be cron job is having so many features. So we are just performing some automated task, writing the job logic, registering the spring bin, adding it up to the cron job table, creating the trigger, and running the job from HMC or ant or via API itself. And this is how to start a cron job. These are the features that already we have seen, like the email template, the code execution, user, and node ID. So the node ID is basically like on which node the cron job will be performed. For a clustered environment itself, we can just specify the node for a cron job, that in which node the cron job is going to perform. That also we can do it, and that's typically for the clustered environment itself. So any questions, guys, or anything that we have for the cron job? Go ahead.
So, is there any specific layer in which we need to write these cron jobs, like in the service layer only we need to write?
Yes.
Okay, so once if we write the program in the service layer, how this will be available in HMC?
Sorry?
How does
Can you come again, please?
So suppose we write any particular job, we write any particular program, and how that particular job will be available in HMC.
So by default, under the cron job model, if you just load the job as the data of the cron job model, it will be available for you in the HMC.
Means I need to give the path.
So what I mean, yeah. No. So if you just in the impact step number 3, if you can see that we have just loaded the cron job, right, with my bin ID. This is the one. Hold on, I'm just showing it to you. This is the one I am just mentioning, right? So my job code I have loaded.
Okay.
Once this loading is done, okay, then only as part of the data load over here itself in the result column of the cron job, our job will be displayed. So you can see that there is several jobs are there, that is, and whenever the data is loaded as part of the data, cron job data, we will see that.
So that insert update, that was you are using insert or insert update cron job? Insert update. So cron job is itself an item type over there. Here. That is
Yes.
So it's the default one that has been provided by hybris.
Yes, the cron job model that Manish was having this question, right? So I told that there is a cron job model already defined, and we are adding our code to this cron job model using the business key.
Okay. So is there a possibility that okay, cron job. Okay, we can set it via HMC like intervals and all those things. So via program also, programmatically also we can call this?
Which one? The cron job?
Yeah.
Yes, we can. So the programmatically, you see, the cron job part is very simple. We don't need to call it explicitly. If we have the trigger, and if the server is running, whenever the trigger comes, the cron job automatically runs by itself.
No, I was just thinking of a situation like, okay, okay. I was just thinking of a situation. Suppose, let's take an example. Suppose a user registers into the system, and at that time, a particular email needs to be triggered to the user that your registration is successful, like that. So at that time, can we use this cron job to trigger the emails?
So yes, you can. You can use the cron job to trigger the emails as well. See, basically in the perform method, whatever we are doing, we are just providing our logic. So in the mail service and all, that is a completely different part itself. So whatever is possible stuff that we can do in a scheduled way, that's why we use the cron job. That's it. Got my point?
Yes, sir.
But still, if you have any questions or concerns, just please feel free to talk to me, because we are not going to cover any new topic. This is the complete understanding that we will have, and then we will leave for the day.
Can there be a dependency, like one job dependent on another one?
Yes, we can.
So in that case, if one job is running, and in the meantime it is, so will that particular job will wait for the other job to complete? If there are two jobs and one. My question is, if there are two jobs running and one job is dependent on another's input, is there any such a deadlock situation or?
No, we need to provide the trigger in that such a way that it depends on how we are just defining the triggers.
Okay.
So we should be triggering the whole thing in such a way that it should not be a problem, or it should not be a conflict at any point of time between two jobs.
Oh, okay. So, one more question, so obviously, there will something like if it job is successful, it will be having a successful message. And if the job fails, at that time also email is triggered.
See, email, whenever you are just talking about the emails, okay.
This time email that we show that can see like a person who is running the job, like admin. So he's informed about
So
the
let
job.
me go to it.
Yeah.
Just let me open any other job itself. Account manager test data job. What is that? Okay. So if you just go here, just a second. Let me check. It should be somewhere over here. Okay. Order scheduled. Yeah. So in the task itself, you can see that there is an email address that we can just have it, right, Kundan?
Yeah.
So what we can do is like this is the default part of the cron job model itself, and in the job you can define another mail itself as well. So as part of the cron job model, we can just simply trigger a mail from the system from here itself, the notification after post processing notifications itself. Okay.
Okay.
You got my point.
Yes. So this email will be triggered to whom? Admin?
This email will be triggered to the email address which has been provided here.
Okay.
It can be your or my email address as well.
Yeah. I got it. Yeah.
Sorry? Kundan, is anyone from your side is having any questions?
No. Khaja was just having a discussion with me. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So if Khaja is having any special question, I can take that as well, not a problem. Yeah, Khaja, go ahead.
Yeah. Deepak, one quick question in my mind, like suppose there is one B2B application. So there are some VIP customers, like all customers got registered in that website. So to keep a good bond with them, so suppose I want to trigger just like according to their birthday, I want to suppose send the birthday wishes to them. As I am having like their email ID and contact number and date of birth, address and etc. So whenever so we create a cron job for that and we schedule a trigger in that index with cron job. So whenever the birthday will comes, so the appropriate job will get activated and get fired. The appropriate job will get performed. I want to know. To send a particular user a birthday wishes, it is okay. Then I'm just want to know how to send a birthday wishes to if a particular day, if more than
multiple users are having
5 customers are having a birthday. Yeah. So in that situation, we have to do any modification in code or in cron job, like in impacts like that.
Okay, so let us just quickly take this as an example. So I have a customer code base and I am having the birthday itself, like the birth date itself with us. So what we can do is in our code itself, what we can do in our code, we can check that whenever the system date is the birthday of that particular user, let's get customer dot get DOB or something like that. So if that is there, then we can just trigger the cron job, or we can just write our cron job that in the perform method we can write that whenever it is that, then this system should fire up these jobs itself, and you can relate it to the event system as well. So we can just create an event as well. So whenever this is matching through the event, we can run the cron job. Okay. And as part of the cron job in the perform method, what it will do, it will take the user's email address, and it will just fire up an email to the user from the system. That's the very basic idea. And if there is a multiple user, that also will be the same logic. So we will be taking the customer's DOB, and from the customer's DOB, what we will be doing, we will be directly just sending, we will be just directly verifying that in our system, and then using events or some other methods, we can just trigger a cron job to send the mail. So whatever the point is, like the cron job part will associated to it will be the mail sending part of it itself. The rest of the part you can just handle it in the Java code as well. Are you getting my point?
Okay, Deepak. So in abstract job performable method, we write our logic there.
Yeah. In the abstract, yeah, means my code, which is means implementing the abstract job performable.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the abstract job performable is an interface, right? That's what.
Yeah. In perform method, we implement if we want to send more than one user.
So whatever that is been applicable, that we can just write it our own code, our own logic over there. And if you just want to verify the logic, if you have any means code concept or something that you are stuck with, you can just send it to me itself. And one small thing, Khaja, that I got your mail regarding the classifications. I am just looking through it. So once it's complete and I have the answer with me, I will just send it to you. Okay. So that is also there in my mind. It is not been lost. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So any more questions from anyone?
Yes, Deepak.
Tell me.
Actually, I have a question related to the yesterday session. Can you show me your application which is created by you called My Test?
Yes, that should be in another workspace for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is the question, Manish?
Basically on authentication and authorization based. Actually, I found there on web.xml file login, basically Spring Security or login config. So I want to integrate the existing user group inside our application using authorization and authentication, using a basic authentication or a form-based authentication. So could you please small guide on this?
So basically, you just what you just want from me is like you want to integrate the whole new customer or the user base that you are having to the existing application, like that you were asking.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
That those part means we have a API for that in the commerce. I will show you that what are the APIs that is been available for that. But as of now, it's our application is very what I can say. Very small in compared to integrate those applications itself. Okay. Because the customer base and all that has been huge, and the data model, whatever I have created, it's a very basic data model. So we have to use the hybris user data model, like the what is defined as part of the platform core items.xml. So what will happen over there is like we will be taking the customer in account, and we will just doing the fit gap stuff, but that will be typically a part of the commerce. It is too early for that to implement in our existing sample application. Because you can see that my sample application here is having a very small scope in the data model. It's a very small data model that I am having.
Actually, Deepak, just I was implementing to in stadium front end, because copy having already a group called PP, admin user, and one user over there called PP, and the password is 123. So I want to implement this user with authenticate on a storefront. Stadium front end application. That's it. Using Spring Security, like form-based authentication.
Okay. So the for the copy PP itself, you just want to put it in the copy shell. That's the very basic idea that you are having here. The copy user base. Okay.
Yeah. Just I want to use the same existing user to authenticate the stadium application, like a front-end application.
Okay, so I would like to say that one thing to you is like you can check how the data model for copy, the player data model for copy is there. And all you can do is you can just, so I'm just telling you the solution how you can just try it out. So we have the player data model in copy, right? So you can just simply create some copy tail player which will be extending the copy player itself. Okay. Yeah. And then try to load the same data that is there as part of the player data in copy.
Okay.
Because in the copy tail where the stadium is actually defined, the player data is not there. And the stadium front end, whatever is been created also, as I can remember, that is also part of the copy tail.
Yeah.
We have done that. Okay, so you need to just bring it on, bring the data itself from copy to copy tail, and then you can test it out. Not a problem.
Means we can. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah, tell me.
We can achieve this now using Spring Security, like form-based authentication. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Let me try this. Then if I stuck, then I'll ping you or mail you. Deepak.
Okay, sure. Yeah, tell me.
Actually, let me try myself. If I stuck, then I'll ping you and mail you. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no problem. Okay, so that's it, guys. That's it for today that we had. And what we will be having is like the rest of the part. Anyway, we will just take 1 or 2 more sessions. We will complete and then we will start the commerce. But during the weekend time, we will not have the class on Sunday night US time, means like the 23rd Indian time itself, 23rd Indian morning. So that's a mail also been circulated. Jaideep has just updated during the session itself. So what I would require that as we are having a 3 days gap, so you will be just practicing out all the stuff, whatever we have discussed, whatever the assignments that is given and all those things. And if you feel any question at any point of time, please drop me a mail. So I will be available on mail for you guys. So I will just reply back on those same. Okay. And by this time, what I will do is like I will send out the handouts to Jaideep maybe. So Jaideep or Divya, you can just circulate amongst yourself the handout, whatever I have used today, the dynamic model attribute and the cron job itself. Service layer I have already given. Okay.
Deepak, Jaideep here.
Yeah, Jaideep, tell me.
Layer handout, you sent it to Amit, or whom did you send it?
Yeah, Amit, I have sent it previously.
Okay. Because it's
so if you want it one more time, I can. Yeah. Yeah, I have sent it to Amit before itself. Like long back itself, I have sent it before. Means like in the start of this week itself, I have sent it to Amit. Okay. So if you require one more time this one, so I will send it back to you guys as well. So it should not be a problem for me to send it again.
Anybody else has checked? We received, I think, a bunch of handouts. I have not checked all of them, so maybe it's in there. But you can send it anyways, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
Anybody knows?
We will just, yeah.
Sorry. Just checking with other guys, like anybody knows if we have received already?
Okay. Sure.
No, not received.
Okay. So I think Deepak, you can send.
Yeah. Okay. I will just send it across. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you, Deepak.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, Mr. Deepak, thank you so much.